Do you realize that today we are exactly 3 weeks away from 2020? And we're closer now to 2020 than we've ever been. I know that's kind of simplistic, but it is true. We're closer now to the end of the world. We're closer now to the next nuclear holocaust than we were yesterday, because time doesn't stop for anybody. Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast, 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. Yesterday, I spent several hours listening to and watching interviews with the richest man in Africa. He may have been the richest man in Nigeria, but throughout all of Africa, he individually in his companies produces more cement than all of South Africa, just in one plant. But the ability to build wealth in his mind comes through innovation. It comes through understanding the economics of what can I do. Somebody asked him straight up in this interview, why is it that you don't invest your money in oil? Everybody else in Nigeria who has lots of money, they put their money in oil. And his answer was profound. He said, well, number one, it's the most corrupt industry, especially in Nigeria. Anybody with money who is in oil is also corrupt. Those are his words, not mine. You can't hold me accountable for them. But he also went on to say, it seems odd to me also that there are a lot of people making a lot of money on oil that comes out of Nigeria and we export it all over the world, and yet we're the largest importer of petroleum products. Let that sink in for a minute. Because what that tells you is that what's happening all over most of Africa is what's happening in Nigeria, and that is exporting the natural resources, and then someone else makes the profit margin between the natural resource and the end product. All of that money is being exported. Diaspora is about people who have left the country, left the continent, and gone on to make their wealth elsewhere, and they're sending the money back to the work to be done in their home country. It's been true of the Jewish peoples for centuries. The Chinese people have seen great success, leaving their hometown and going off to another place, building wealth and sending money back home. It happens all over Latin America. In Africa, though, a lot of people leave, or they sell the natural resources, get wealthy, and then leave, but they don't send the money back. So there's not a circulation of money. The other irony is that there were so many people. In fact, in the interview, one of the questions that was asked was, now that you've built so much wealth and you have so many companies with so many employees, why are you not doing anything about the security in the North? Why are you not doing anything about the unemployment in the North? Why are you not doing anything about the unemployed and uneducated young people? And he said, I put to work tens of thousands of people. And I provide jobs for them, and we provide innovation for them, and we provide conduits, ways for people to make money, and ways for people to sell stuff, and ways for people to use the products. But if they don't want to work, I don't have any obligation to them. That, my friends, is a profound thought. That is a profound thought, and it kind of flies in the face of a lot of what's going on in our societies today. Jack Ma, and the wealthiest man in Africa, I wish I could say his name, I can't pronounce it, and I even tried to spell it and I couldn't find it in the search. I found it in YouTube through some other stuff that I was watching, but I just can't find his name. So when I find it, I'll tag it, or I'll tag the video here so you can listen to the interview yourself. He was interviewed by Al Jazeera. So maybe if you just search wealthiest man in Africa, Al Jazeera interview, you can see the same interview that I started with. The idea that Jack Ma and the wealthiest man in Africa both said, listen, you've got to reinvest every dollar that you have. He was asked by someone, you're a multi-billionaire now. When did you decide that you were actually rich? The richest man in Africa said, when I had $1 million, it didn't really sink in. But when I had $10 million back in the day, you could actually write a check. And he tells the story that he went to the bank, wrote a check for $10 million, put it all in the trunk of his car, drove home with it, put it out on his bed and looked at it and said, now I'm rich. That's what $10 million looked like. The next day, he put it back in the car, took it back to the bank, and put it back in the bank. And he said, today, if you ask me, what am I worth? I don't know the answer to that question. I pay people for that. And the guy says, so how much cash do you have on you? He said, man, I don't even carry a wallet. I don't know. I drive myself everywhere I go. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. For me, that's not what it's about. Ironic, though, that there are so many people who, the style of their watch, the brand of their clothing, the things that they possess for the world to see their wealth, that really is the marker of their success. Not millions of goods bought and sold, not millions of lives changed, not hundreds of thousands of people employed, but, what brand is your watch? What brand are your shoes? That's pretty fascinating to me. It's not about the lives that are changed. It's about the label. Jack Ma said, there was a day before the market crashed that I was wealthier for that day than Bill Gates. But then I lost $78 billion. And they both had this same sentiment. You can't spend tomorrow's money. Don't think today that you're getting wealthy, therefore I'll spend what I have not yet earned. See, there are a lot of people doing that. They call it fake it till you make it. They put on the airs, let everyone see how wealthy you're going to be. It doesn't work that way. Now, I do believe, though, Paul Martinelli and Roddy Galbraith both mentioned in their Science of Getting Rich study that changing the way you view money and the way you view yourself in relationship to that money has the potential to change everything. If you despise wealth, or if you feel like, well, if you got money and I don't have any, you should give me some, that you owe it to me mentality, that'll destroy you. But the idea of from time to time treating yourself with the opulence to say, I'm going to go to the nicest restaurant in town, even if all I have is a cup of coffee and a dessert. Even if I can't afford to spend $150 on a meal like everybody else is, I will have a cup of coffee, I will sit in this place, I will be in the presence of these people, and I will allow myself to feel okay being here. See, that is a challenge for a lot of people. A lot of people want to ridicule Starbucks and a $4 cup of coffee. Frankly, I get the same cup of coffee every time I'm in there. I buy enough coffee there that I get free refills all day long. So I'll start off and have a normal cup of $2 coffee. By the way, that's cheaper than Waffle House. Cup of coffee for $2. I sit in that environment. I chat with people. I study my books, and I have great conversations with people. And I meet a lot of people in a Starbucks environment. Most people have that same kind of experience, but people who look down their noses or up their noses at Starbucks and say, a $5 cup of coffee, who would ever want to do that? I get the same coffee at Waffle House. Well, no, you can't. The coffee at Waffle House has one flavor, usually old. But Starbucks has multiple flavors. If you want to spend $5 and put all kind of frou-frou stuff in your coffee, go ahead. My point is this, though. Because you're skimping on your money, because you're saving on your money and ridiculing people who have more money, because your mindset says, I don't want to be like the rich. Trust me, I know. I lived there most of my life. I'm only now coming to the place where I look at common sense answers, like the wealthiest man in Africa. Trust me, the man didn't get wealthy just because he did wrong things. The man got wealthy because he's got good business sense. He talked about traveling from one country to another, trying to do business, and how when he has a certain passport and his assistant has a different passport, they get to the border and his assistant gets through and he doesn't. He said, for that reason, my assistant is always ready to go to the meeting. Because if I get there and they stop me for a visa, or I get there and they just don't want to let me in, somebody's still got to go do business. But why would you make it so hard for less than 150 miles of travel to do business among states or among countries? That's a really good question. When Jack Ma created Alibaba, there was no internet in China. But now they do trillions of transactions a year with zero errors. How does that happen? See, there are a lot of people today who are looking at 2020 and they're going, but I want to be rich. Well, if rich is your end game, then you may have some challenges. If significance is your end game, then wealth may accidentally follow it. It tends to work that way. When you have an idea that innovates, that changes lives for others, that impacts the world around you to be a better place. Wealth follows ideas like that. Wealth hunts down ideas like that so that it can be utilized for that purpose. Now, I got no problem with giving it away. I got no problem at all with taking whatever money you want to earn and give it away. But just understand this. The flow of cash tends to go where things are improving, where things are getting better, where lives are being improved. And for people who just want to gather the wealth to put a new bling on their wrist, to put a new bling around their neck, to change the car in their driveway, to upgrade their house and have no impact on their community, if that's why you pursue wealth, you'll be pursuing it for a long time because you're going to have to chase it to get it. If your mindset changes and you realize that wealth will come to you when you do good for others, you'll have an entirely different outlook on wealth. And wealth will have an entirely different outlook on you. That's my challenge for you for 2020. I know this has been a long message, but I feel like it's very important. If you don't get your money mindset right, your relationship to money is never going to be right. That's a hard thing to get your hands around. I recently did a spreadsheet for a new project that we're working on. And as I got to the bottom line and started looking at the numbers, I was like, there's no way that's even remotely possible. I went back and checked all the numbers, and I looked at all the formulas, and I looked at all the percentages, and I looked at how it all comes together, and there was no inaccuracy in that. Jack Ma said, it wasn't the smartest people that came to work at Alibaba that made it successful. Because at that time in the dot-com boom, everyone that was good was being headhunted and recruited out. So if they went to MIT or Harvard and they came to us, they left soon and went to big jobs. He said, but the entrepreneurial spirit, the hard work, the innovation, the willingness to risk it all, that's what made it successful. Is that you? Do you have that mindset that says, I'm here about being significant in the life of others? I'm willing to risk it all. I want to do the hard work. I want to apply my intelligence, and I want to surround myself with people who are the same. You surround yourself with people like that who have a different worldview about wealth, and you won't have to worry about working for a job. And you won't have to worry about how do I find wealth and where do I get it. But if you're constantly thinking, well, that person's wealthy, they should give me some. They might. It doesn't always work that way. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.